You know that feeling, right? You type out what seems like a totally clear message, hit send, and then maybe nothing.
Or worse, yeah. You get a reply that just completely misses what you were trying to say.
Hmm,
Happens all the time.
totally. Texts, emails, I mean, even just trying to explain something out loud sometimes. We've all been there.
It is a bit strange, though, isn't it? We're like
Okay.
always connected, always sending messages back and forth, but
Yeah.
actually feeling, understood, making sure your point really lands.
Mm,
That can feel surprisingly difficult.
exactly. And that's really what we want to dig into today. We're on a mission, sort of, to figure out why expressing ourselves clearly feels so tricky sometimes.
Yeah, and we've found some really interesting ideas, some, let's say, small shifts in thinking and speaking that could make a real difference for you listening.
Think of this as getting some tools to cut through that communication fog.
Right. We're basically looking at three main things today. First, what effective communication actually is maybe not what you think. Second, this really strong link between clear thinking and clear talking or typing.
Yeah, the messy thoughts problem.
Exactly. And third, something often overlooked, vocabulary. How the words we use or maybe don't use affect things.
Okay, sounds like a good roadmap. Let's jump into that first one. What does it actually mean to communicate well?
Oh,
It's got to be more than just, making sounds.
well, yeah. One definition we came across that's really helpful is thinking of it as helping someone accurately understand something they didn't know before.
Okay, that makes sense. Something new.
And that I want them to know. It sounds simple on the surface.
But there's a catch, I'm guessing.
There's a hidden requirement, yeah.
Yeah.
The really crucial bit is knowing what the other person already knows and what they don't. That idea of like common knowledge.
Right. Okay, so it's not just about my message, but about where they're starting from.
Precisely. Think about explaining 1 plus 1 equals 2 to a little kid. You automatically check, do they even get what numbers are, what plus means?
Sure, you have to start at their level. Otherwise, it's just gibberish to them.
Exactly. But we often forget to do that same check with adults. This whole common knowledge thing gets really murky.
We just assume, don't we? Well, I know this, so obviously they must too. It's faster, I guess.
It is, but it can seriously backfire. We saw a really good example of this. Someone shared a frustrating story about an anesthesiologist.
Oh, what happened?
The doctor said something like, "You're anxious because you don't sleep. Even the best doctors can't help you if that's the case."
Okay, on the surface, I can kind of see the logic there, maybe.
Right. Sounds almost reasonable. But for the person hearing it, it was infuriating. And the key is their prior knowledge.
What did they know that the doctor didn't?
For them, the sleep issue wasn't the cause of the anxiety, it was a symptom. That's a huge difference in understanding.
Okay, so the doctor's common knowledge was flipped from the patient's reality.
Exactly. And there was more context missing, too. This person had apparently just had a checkup. Things were actually getting better with the anxiety.
So the doctor's comment felt completely dismissive and, well, wrong.
Totally. And if you just heard the doctor's comment without knowing the patient's side, their knowledge, their context, you might just think the doctor was making a fair point.
Wow. Yeah, leaving out those details totally changes how you see it.
It really highlights the main point here. We assume shared knowledge way too often. We just kind of project our own understanding onto others.
And when that assumption is wrong, boom, communication breakdown. It's a good reminder to pause and actually think, what does this person likely know or not know?
Precisely. Which actually leads us really nicely into the second big idea we explored.
Which is?
That your expression, how clearly you communicate, is really only as clear as your thinking behind it.
Oh, this one feels very familiar. That experience where a thought feels perfectly clear, like crystal clear in your head.
You feel like you've totally got it figured out.
But then you open your mouth or start typing and it just comes out jumbled, like a tangled mess.
It happens to everyone. The sources we looked at explain this pretty well. They talk about how our brain works incredibly fast, like a high-speed processor making all these intuitive leaps.
Okay.
But translating that super fast, complex internal process into, logical step-by-step language, that takes deliberate, conscious effort. It's manual work almost.
Right. It doesn't just automatically translate. Our brain does the lightning-fast connections, but we have to consciously build the bridge for someone else using words and logic.
And if we skip that building step, if we just sort of dump the raw thoughts out,
Then it's scattered, Confusing,
Yeah.
ineffective.
Exactly. And that's where this idea of structured thinking comes in. It's about intentionally organizing those thoughts.
Structured thinking. I like that phrase. It sounds less like random ideas floating around and more like seeing the architecture of the thought.
Yeah, seeing how the pieces fit together in a bigger picture, not just random bits. The example used was actually from that same person dealing with the doctor complaint.
Oh, okay. How do they apply structured thinking there?
Well, instead of just calling up angry and venting, they planned it out. They started the conversation very clearly. I'm here to verify what happened, determine if anything was inappropriate. If it was, I'd like to report it.
Wow, that's direct. Sets a very clear purpose right from the start. No confusion about why they're calling.
Exactly. And then, crucially, they separated the situation into two main parts.
Which were?
First, the objective facts, just what was actually said, what actually happened during the appointment. No emotion yet, just the sequence of events.
Okay, just the what?
And then, second, their subjective response, how those facts made them feel and why they felt that way.
Ah, separating facts from feelings. That seems really important for someone listening.
It really is. When we mix objective stuff and subjective feelings all together without making it clear which is which, it gets much harder for the other person to follow our logic, to understand the core issue.
Yeah, it lets the listener process the what happened first, establish a baseline before understanding the emotional impact. Makes sense. So how do we get better at this? This structured thinking thing.
Well, the sources suggested some pretty practical things, like using mind maps to visually lay out your thoughts before you talk or write.
Okay, visualizing it.
Or just the simple act of writing things down. Getting it on paper often forces you to structure it. And also, just taking time for reflection, actively thinking through things to clarify them in your own mind first.
So it's about practice, essentially. Consciously practicing organizing your thoughts in these ways.
Exactly. And the cool thing is, the more you practice structuring your thoughts when you write or plan, the better you get at doing it more automatically in real-time conversations.
That's encouraging. It's like building a mental muscle. It improves how you communicate day to day, not just in formal situations.
Absolutely. Which actually connects to our third key area, something that maybe doesn't get talked about as much, but is super important.
Let me guess. Vocabulary.
You got it. Words, the actual tools we use.
Right. We use them constantly, but maybe not always.
Mm.
Deliberately
Yeah.
or effectively.
Well, the material we reviewed raised an interesting point. Think back to school. You probably spent a lot of time learning grammar, spelling, building vocabulary.
Sure. Lots of reading, writing essays.
Right. But then, maybe now, in our day-to-day communication, especially online, things have shifted. We rely a lot on, memes, emojis, internet slang.
Guilty. They're just so efficient sometimes. A single emoji can say a lot fast.
It can. And that's the point. They're shortcuts. Memes, slang, emojis. They often convey complex feelings or ideas very quickly, sometimes bypassing the need for precise words altogether.
Okay, I see where this is going. It's convenient, but maybe there's a downside.
That's the catch suggested by the sources. Yeah, the convenience is great, but the potential downside is that the more we lean on this emotional or conceptual shorthand.
The less we practice using specific, nuanced language ourselves.
Exactly. We're not flexing those descriptive muscles, as one source nicely put it.
Descriptive muscles. I like that. Like they can get weak from lack of use.
Precisely. And then when you do need to articulate something complex or subtle, you find yourself struggling. That feeling of, I can't find the right word.
Yeah, that tip of the tongue frustration. The muscle isn't strong enough.
So how do you rebuild them? The suggestions were pretty straightforward.
Okay, give them to me.
Basically, try consciously reducing the reliance on slang and emojis, especially when clarity really matters. Challenge yourself sometimes.
Yeah.
Instead of the emoji, how would you say that feeling in words?
Describe the meaning instead of using the shortcut.
Right. And also, make a point to engage with language more actively reading, even short articles or book chapters, and writing, even just journaling or more thoughtful emails. It all helps.
So it's about being more intentional with our word choices, actively exercising that vocabulary.
Yeah. Choosing precision over just convenience sometimes. And the benefit isn't just about being understood clearly, although that's huge. Language is deeper than that, right? It's how we connect with people, how we share complex ideas, how we inspire. Having a richer, more precise vocabulary just allows for deeper connection, clearer thinking, and ultimately feeling truly heard.
That makes a lot of sense. It's not just functional. It's about connection.
Exactly.
Okay, so as we wrap up this deep dive, let's quickly recap those main takeaways for, expressing ourselves better.
Sure. First, really think about your listener. What do they already know? What's their context? Try to bridge that gap.
Got it. Know your audience's knowledge base.
Second, structure your thinking before or as you communicate. Separate facts from feelings. Organize your points logically.
Okay, clear thinking leads to clear expression.
And third, pay attention to your words. Actively build and use your vocabulary. Exercise those descriptive muscles. Don't always take the shortcut.
Rebuild the vocabulary.
Right.
It feels like it's not about suddenly becoming some perfect orator overnight.
Not at all. It's really just about bringing a bit more intention to it all. Slowing down just a fraction.
Taking that extra breath, maybe, before speaking or hitting send. Speaking with purpose.
Exactly.
All right. So here's a final thought for you listening to maybe chew on. Think about a recent time you felt misunderstood. Or maybe you misunderstood someone, looking back now with these ideas in mind.
Yeah, thinking about their knowledge, the structure of the message, the words used.
Could any of those things have possibly shifted how that conversation went? And maybe more importantly, what's one small intentional change you could experiment with in your communication starting today?